For this warm-up, you are writing the location for each of these questions. Here it says, what number is 8 units to the left of 0? So if I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, that is -8. Go ahead and write the location of the remaining problems. A student and teacher are going to take turns placing points. So if a student places a point here, then the teacher gets to place their point, and the teacher places their point here. So in our table in our book, we're going to write 26 and 34. Then a student gets to place another point. Oops. For example, here, and the teacher would place it here at 29 and 31. And then a student may place it at 20, and then the teacher would place it at 40. What do you notice about the location of where the teacher is placing their point in comparison to where their students are placing the points? Well, if our diamond is at 30, the student is 4 below 30, and the teacher is 4 above 30. This one is 1 below 30, and the teacher is 1 above 30. Here the student is 10 below 30, and the teacher is 10 above 30. So they're placing them in different directions, but the same distance. Many times we compare numbers based on their location around 0. So for example, we could have -2, and then 2 is the same distance from 0, but they're in different directions. If a student places their point at -10, then 10 to the opposite direction of 0 would be a +10. If a student placed their value at -7, the teacher would place theirs at +7. If a student placed theirs at 5, if this is 0 and they moved 5 to the right, the teacher would have to move 5 to the left at -5. So opposites are numbers that are the same distance from 0 on the number line, but they're on different sides of 0. 7 and -7 are opposites. -5 and 5 are opposites. We can fill in that definition in the blanks. Then we need to list 3 pairs of opposites. 21 and -21. -67 and 67. -9 and +9. You could list others. These are just 3 examples. Here we see A is at -7. The opposite would be here at +7. They're both 7 units away from 0. We can do the same thing in a vertical number line. A is at 180, so we need to go 180 in the other direction from 0. Here we have the number, and we need to write the opposite. This goes 2 to the left, so we need to move 2 to the right, which is at +2. What is the opposite of 5? -5. Fill in the rest, and then you can come back and check your answers. Go ahead and use this vertical number line to complete the opposites of the numbers listed in the table. Take some time now to try them on your own. Then check your work. Which point is plotted at the opposite of 5? The opposite of 5 is -5, which is C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Which point is plotted at the opposite of -9? The opposite of -9 is +9. At +9 is the point G. Name a point that is the same distance from 0 as point H. Well, H is 10 away from 0, so I need to go 10 away from 0 as well, which is point A. Name 2 points that are both 1 unit from 0. F is 1 away, and E is 1 away in the opposite direction. Plot point P at the opposite of -6. Well, the opposite of -6 is +6, so we're going to place point P here. We want to put our dot where the lines cross. An integer is a number that can be represented as a whole number or as the opposite of a whole number. So if you think about the number line, the numbers that typically show up on our number line are integers. The set of integers is the infinite list of numbers, so it continues on in both directions. And here's just a little snapshot of the list of integers. We have -3, -2, 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. So we need to fill in the blanks here. An integer is a number that can be represented as a whole number or as the opposite of a whole number. The set of integers is the infinite list of numbers. And so then it's asking us for just a little bit of the list. The opposite of 1 is -1. Opposite of 2 is -2. Opposite of 3, -3. Opposite of 4, -4. And it says list 3 integers. And it doesn't say they have to be in order. So any integer, any whole number or opposite of a whole number. 271. -52. -1,346. These are all integers. So an integer 5 and its opposite, which is -5, is also an integer. We can think of these negatives as the opposite. So this would be the opposite of 5 and then the opposite of that. Well, the opposite of 5 is -5, and the opposite of -5 is just +5. Opposite makes it negative. Take the opposite again, turns it back to a positive. For problems 8 through 10, use the following information to plot point B and point C on the number line. B is located at the opposite of the number that point A represents. So B is the opposite of 3, which is -3. Point C is located at the opposite of the number that point A represents. The opposite is -3. The opposite of that is 3. So A and C are in the same location. B is the opposite of -4, so B is located at +4. C is the opposite of A and then the opposite of that, which puts it back at -4. What's the opposite of 0? 0 is its own opposite. So B is located here, and then the opposite of that is also 0. Here we have the opposite of 5, which is -5. The opposite of -5 is +5. And then the opposite of that puts us back at -5. We can think of it like this. We start at 5. The opposite of 5, the opposite of that, and then the opposite of that. So we ended at -5. Use the number line to complete parts A through C. Some of the labels on the number line are missing. Estimate the number that A and B could represent. Well, this distance is about 2 from 0, and this looks to be about the same distance. So A, if this is -2, A would have to be +2. We're going to use the little squiggles as our estimation or approximation. B is further away. If we went in the opposite direction, that same distance, we ended up at about -9. So B is approximately +9. It's the same distance, but in the other direction. Use your answers from part A to estimate the number that -A and -B would represent. Well, if A is 2, the opposite of A is about -2. If B was approximately 9, then the opposite of B would be approximately -9. And plot and label the points for A and B on the number line. -A and -B. So -B and -A are the opposite of A. Estimate the location of the opposite of P on the number line. So we're looking to make it about the same distance, but in the opposite direction. And we'll put the opposite of P here. We don't have any values other than 0 to help us identify what number it could represent, but we are able to locate it based on the distance it is from 0. This is the opposite of T and the opposite of that. Well, T is here, so the opposite of T would be around here, but the opposite of that would be back to where it started. That is the end of this lesson, all about integers.